You don't need to add yeast. You don't need to knead the bread for minutes. Hold on, oh no. Let's make the easiest loaf of bread in the world. This vegan Irish soda bread is on your table in 45 minutes, start to finish. No yeast, no kneading, no rise time, just home-baked deliciousness. A loaf of bread baked in your home in just over 30 minutes. How did I not know about this wondrous possibility sooner? I'm Catherine, Brian's behind the camera, and in 45 minutes, we are going to be eating bread baked by my hands. Well, a little longer than 45 minutes because these videos take us a while to make, but the point stands. So hit that subscribe button and let's bake some bread. Traditional Irish soda bread is made with just 4 ingredients: flour, salt, baking soda, and buttermilk. I have seen some recipes where eggs are included and others where the bread is sweetened and dried fruit is incorporated. But in honor of the upcoming St. Patrick's Day, I've decided to stay pretty traditional with my recipe. I'm using a combination of white all-purpose flour and whole wheat flour, salt, baking soda, and I'm making a homemade vegan buttermilk by combining soy milk and lemon juice. You can make my recipe using all white flour or all whole wheat flour. I've gone for a mixture of both so that the loaf has a little bit of that softness of white flour and also a little bit of the added nutrition and rustic flavor of the whole wheat flour. A loaf made entirely of whole wheat flour will be quite rustic tasting, but if you're prepared for that extra wheaty flavor and if you get creative and maybe add some seasonings into your butter, it's gonna be pretty delicious. And if you make your loaf entirely with white flour, then it'll be a little softer and fluffier than mine. The only other change I make is to the buttermilk. Soda bread doesn't need yeast because it uses the magic that happens between baking soda and the sour buttermilk to rise. You can buy true buttermilk from your grocery store. You can make a homemade version by adding an acid to dairy milk, or you can make a vegan version. Make a homemade vegan buttermilk by combining lemon juice and soy milk. The basic ratio is 1 cup milk to 1 tablespoon acid. Today I'm using 1½ cup soy milk and stirring in 1½ tablespoon lemon juice. You can use apple cider vinegar as your acid if that's what you have on hand, and you can use any unsweetened non-dairy milk. I prefer soy milk because it's usually thick to begin with, so it produces a nice thick vegan buttermilk. Let the milk and acid mixture rest at room temperature for at least 5 minutes, and you will notice it thickening and turning sour. Once your vegan buttermilk is nice and thick, you're ready to use it in your baking. That's the first step to this Irish soda bread. Mix the acid into the milk, let it sit for 5 minutes, and meanwhile, I'm preheating my oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit and mixing my dry ingredients. In a large bowl, mix 2 cups white all-purpose flour and 1/3 cup whole wheat flour. Remember to spoon your flour into your measuring cups. If you scoop with your measuring cup, you'll be using too much flour. Add 1 teaspoon salt and 1 teaspoon baking soda. Use the traditional claw method by shaping your hand into a claw, lowering it into the bowl, and mixing with a circular motion. Make a well in the dry ingredients, and when your buttermilk has thickened, pour it into that well. Use the claw to mix the buttermilk with the dry ingredients until the flour is fully combined and the dough pulls away from the sides of the bowl. I've reserved some of the buttermilk to demonstrate what you can do if your dough is too dry to come together. Just add a touch more milk until you are able to mix all the flour in. If your dough is quite wet, you can add a bit more flour in the next step. Tip the dough onto a floured surface and pat the sides of the dough with flour. Flip the dough over so that all sides are floured and transfer the dough to a parchment-lined baking sheet. If you don't have parchment paper, you can oil or flour your baking sheet, or you can bake this soda bread in a cast iron pan. Gently flatten the dough into an 8-inch disc. This is a crucial step that I was missing at first. If you bake the loaf as a round, you will have to increase the baking time, but if you flatten it, the loaf will cook through in the shorter baking time. Slice a deep cross into the loaf with a sharp knife. The cross should be quite deep, so don't be scared to slice through that dough. This allows steam to escape and it helps the bread cook quickly. Finally, to abide by Irish tradition, poke each quadrant with your knife to let the fairies out. You need to keep the fairies happy. They don't want to be baked. You see them too, right? Bake your soda bread at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 to 35 minutes. How easy is that? You don't need to add yeast. You don't need to knead the bread for minutes. Hold on, oh no. Don't look. The shame, the Guinness shame, what have I done? I didn't even have it in the fridge. It's not even cold. My brother-in-law told me not to pour Guinness on camera. He didn't know that I wouldn't even be able to open it properly. Totally cool. So basically, what I was trying to say is that this is the easiest loaf of bread in the world. And by the time I mopped up that mess I made by trying to open a can of beer, my bread is done. And you'll know that your soda bread is done when it's this nice golden color. It's dry in these slits that you made. And you can also tap on the bottom of your loaf to see if it makes a hollow sound. Now, people say that you should do that, but I really don't think it's the most practical way to check if your bread, your piping hot loaf of bread is done, but put some oven mitts on if you need to. Carefully lift it up. It's like a tambourine or something. Are you getting that?
Yeah.
My finger hurts, it's hot. Oh, another way you can check if it's done, this I learned from the Great British Bake Off. You can listen to your bread. If it sounds bubbly and like there's lots of activity in there, then it's maybe not quite cooked enough. But if it sounds nice and calm and all the other things add up, then you're probably good. Today, I've also made a delicious vegan Irish Guinness stew with mushrooms to have alongside this easy soda bread. So if this looks like a delicious duo to you, then both recipes are linked below. How fantastic is this? This is a wonderfully rustic and hearty loaf, and because it's a denser loaf of bread, it is best enjoyed warm and on the same day you make it. Brian and I always have leftovers though. We store them in the fridge and it makes a really nice toast for the next couple of days, so don't worry. This vegan Irish soda bread is tasty, it's timely, and it's also pretty thrifty. This recipe costs us about $1.60 to make, and the vegan buttermilk costs us 76 cents versus about $1.50 if we were to buy traditional buttermilk from our grocery store. So the next time you have company and you forgot to buy the dinner rolls, then pull up this recipe and pretend it took you all day to make some bread. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button. The soda bread and the Guinness stew are linked below for you to enjoy, and we have a new video for you every Sunday at 5 p.m. Next Sunday, we are making our favorite lunch, an Asian-inspired instant noodle soup bowl. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day, and keep your fairies happy. Bread is life.